Turn me up my headphones, Guru. No. I'm like, no. supposed to play along.
Turn my headphones up, microphone down.
Mic check 1 2 1 2. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Spiritual Alchemist Podcast. You have me, and we have Uncle Tommy is back now. He's, he was a little gone for a little bit. Had to handle some business.
Had to take care of some business.
And now the now that the business is handled, he is back.
I'm back.
So we can have the TT and Uncle Tommy show.
Where did that come from, and why is that a thing? I don't know. But...
Well, Tone, I believe, is the one that made that a thing.
Because we were sitting over here giggling and laughing during Mimi's show.
I think so, because we just get along.
Yeah, we got our own little vibe going.
All right, and he calls us the Backyardigans, as well. So, I guess I'm Tasha from the Backyardigans, because I was the only black one, I think.
We sound like it.
Yeah, and then are you Pablo? Which one are you? I'm like, I don't know what the other characters are. I can't remember anymore.
I don't know either. It's been a minute.
It has been. Like, the kids are like almost grown. It's it's crazy.
They was jamming back then, though.
They were.
It was dancing and shit.
Mm-hmm. But it's not like how I think. What's the one that's now what's her name? Gracie's Corner. I think is the one that's kind of like.
Yeah, they be pop locking and yeah.
Yeah. See, we didn't have all that.
They be trapping.
I mean, mine. I think they had what was the other one? Oh my goodness, Yo Gabba Gabba.
Oh, okay.
With DJ Lance.
Yeah.
And everything, and Biz Marquee. And they're rest in peace, by the way. But with Biz Marquee as well too. So yes.
Jeez.
I know I'm kind of aging myself by talking about the shows that my children watched growing up.
No, it's the tough thing is now as we do age and we recognize that music that we listen to, I'll be listening to a song like, man, it's crazy, he passed. And then you hear like somebody on the hook, I'm like, dude, he passed too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, damn. Like two people in the same song, like, dang.
Right, and then the whole song is just like a rest in peace song.
Right. Like, wow.
Yeah.
That's where we are now.
Mm-hmm. But what can we say? That's the music. And the kids they're also like remaking everything too, which is the other thing that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because then I'm like, didn't they just make that song?
Like, the remixes are coming out like the next week.
I mean, they're getting worse than, of course, I'm going to bring them up just for 2 seconds. But like R. Kelly used to always have like the remix within like a week or two as well.
Yeah.
So we just only brought him up for the remix. That's all. Just to say that part of it between him and then also Pharrell and them too.
So little tidbit, I found out that when artists did have remixes like that, they didn't get paid for those remixes. Those were just promos.
Oh,
so
I did not know that.
Yeah, they were just put out because it was off the record kind of thing, kind of like off the beaten path kind of thing. So you would get a remix to keep it hot in the clubs and whatnot, to keep your name hot. But it wasn't. They didn't get any residuals from that.
So would they be in the club like, okay, I want to perform, but can we not perform my remix because I want to get paid?
That's crazy when people actually have a dope remix and the remix is doper than the original.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's interesting. No, I did not know that.
Yeah, unless the record company puts out the remix.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
If they put out the remix, you there might be some deal made there, but.
Well, then that would probably explain why we've been hearing so much of Coy the Ray and Busta.
Yeah.
That, and then also we got the Wetter remix with Beyonce and everything.
I did hear that. I haven't heard that, but I did hear it once.
Mm-hmm. You've had to have heard it. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Well,
yes.
I had to take a sip on that.
Yeah. You got me on the camera.
Yes, I do. I have you here because we are going into. Then it's almost like episode 3 of talking about healing, but this time we're kind of going in a different angle of it and talking about like the grieving process that goes with healing as well too. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up is that, by the time this all posts and everything, it'll actually be the 6-year anniversary of my mother's transition.
Okay,
it's the 13th, and this year things just happened to align, like the dates and the day. So like I was starting to like remember what was going on like at that time and like feeling that in my body. And it was just like a wild experience that I've been going through, and I'm still of course going through it. So I'm still in it, right now as well too. And I've like my therapist was saying to me, because yes, proponent of therapy, I say it to y'all all the time. Make sure y'all taking care of your mind.
You cannot be an alchemist
without having support.
Yes.
You got to have a supporting crew, I'm not going to call staff, but I mean, I do have a staff. I got a virtual assistant, but we're not talking about that right now. But, having that support is huge when you're going through different things. And so she had said to me, she's like, make sure you're keeping yourself, busy, not saying to emotionally bypass, but just, make sure that you're doing things, you're keeping up with stuff that you need to get done and everything. I'm like, okay, cool. And then this week kind of turned into I'm doing everything because unfortunately now bringing back my virtual assistant, unfortunately her mother-in-law transitioned. And so now I'm like, all right, so I have picked up on things that I wasn't initially going to be doing. So then I'm like, really am doing everything this week.
Because we weren't even supposed to be doing this today.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you hit me up like, hey, and I'm like, hey.
Yeah, I just didn't want, I know you usually hit me up and say, hey, we're recording at such and such time. And the last time we talked, you said that we might.
Right.
And I didn't hear anything. So I was going to determine whether or not I was going to be here or I was going to go to bed.
And I appreciate your proactivity.
Yes, because I was like, I could stay here and just go right back to bed.
And would have been none the wiser. I would have been like, where are you at?
All right. Yes.
Because I definitely would have probably called you and been like, I need you to wake up and be here.
And here he is.
And we is here.
Here he is.
But yes, like I said, I just want to kind of, share a little bit more about that because I think there's so many different pieces. There's so many layers, to it. Like even just going through my own particular healing journey and seeing like the way that affects my children, as well. And that's even the process within itself too, because like they're kind of not knowing who they're coming to as far as because it's like, mom, you kind of different. Like you're not necessarily like rah-rah anymore. Cause like I used to be that mom. Where I'd be like, don't like if I'm busy doing something, don't bother me. I'm gonna snap off at you. But it wasn't intentional. It was just something that I recognized was like a trained behavior. So my mother used to do that to me. And I used to be like, dang, she don't want to be bothered or nothing. Like I can't ask you a question or anything. She's gonna snap off at me. And so
what?
Right. And exactly. That's what she would do to me. And I'd be like, damn, okay, never mind. Like, and then I started seeing myself doing that. And now I'm recognizing that. And of course, I don't do it as often. But I say to my kids, I'm like, call me on it. Like if I do it to you, because I know that that's not my intent. It's just that like I might be like overly focused on something, which I shouldn't be that focused that now I'm snapping off of my kids, So your emotion, your I guess indirect, involuntary emotion is like anger, frustration. Yes.
Okay.
That's what I have noticed. It's more like a frustration.
Okay.
Because I'm finally like getting the opportunity to focus on something. And it's like, leave me alone. But then like I said, I don't want to snap off of my kids because of that as well either. Because it's like, I want them to know that I'm here for them, that they can, come and ask me things. But at the same time, I do establish stuff with them. Well, I say, okay, I'm working on a project that I really need to get done. If y'all ain't bleeding, if somebody ain't broke no bone, I don't want to hear, from you guys until this particular time. Now, if you come in here at this particular time, okay, then
you have to honor it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing I asked. But I think they're also at the age now where they can do that. Because like when they were younger, that was a completely different, like, it's like, haha, joke's on you. No,
yeah,
we are here.
You had to deal with it at that point.
Right.
But now they have a little bit more, your maturity to actually be able to entertain themselves without your. So how long ago has it been since your mom passed?
It will be 6 years.
Okay, that's fairly recent.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, where it is definitely still a recent thing, and it's like also too, my dad's caretaker, as well. So being a caretaker 1,200 miles away is also entertaining within itself, and I'm being very sarcastic when I say that because it's like I get random phone calls, like from my dad's neighbor called me, earlier this week. It's like, hey, just want to let you know that your dad's getting the roof and everything fixed, and I was just concerned because, the way that he's walking and all these things like that. And I'm like, oh, he's getting worse. Okay. Well, he didn't tell me that because I'm
not going to
at all. So it's stuff like that where it's like, compounds things because it's like at a point where I'm like, okay, I want you to be good. I want you to be okay. But also too, I can't, clone myself. I can't be in like multiple places at one time.
So the interesting thing is, as you're talking about your dad, my mom passed 2009, so it was several years ago. But can't really put a timestamp on grief and recovery and healing.
Right.
Somehow my body automatically readjusts during that time because it was during the holiday season, and that's when I'm at my worst. But she was fairly young. She was in her 60s when she passed. So it wasn't like she was elderly. But since then, I have recognized that over time, like just visiting my stepdad, he's aged. And I don't, I didn't get a chance to see her age, but I'm watching him age. And I'm like, because he's in his 80s now. And I'm like, he's an elderly man. And I it's hard to look at a person that you have not seen be elderly. And I'm like, so I was with him last night because his computer was not working. And he doesn't know anything about computers. So
no, absolutely not. Clips on everything.
Right. He was like, it was doing all fine until that McAfee came up. I said, that's good. You want McAfee to be there. It was like, it was working fine. I ain't seen it ever.
McAfee needed to update.
Right. But this is the man who's taught me everything and shown me everything, and I've mimicked everything. He could do anything. And now I'm there doing it for him. So that's a transition in itself. So I just thought about that when you were talking about your dad.
And I'm glad that you said that, because I too am noticing the same things, where it's like that transition of like your parent always being like the person that's right, and everything. And now when you're like, oh, you're so wrong. Like, right. Like you're sitting like watching like, yeah, no.
Yeah, we're not even talking about that.
Right. It's like, look at that stuff like that where I'm like, okay. But it's the same thing. Or me even like telling him stuff. Because like, for example, he has chronic pain coach. I do this for a living.
Right.
And like, I'm sitting here like talking to him about different things. And what I did was initially I put both hats on as being daughter caretaker and also coach. So when I first found out about everything, like I'm cleaning out the pantry, cleaning out the fridge. I'm like, okay, this is how your diet needs to be. Like this is how this needs to be, and doing all these things and like getting him water, making sure that he has all the stuff that he needs. And I made sure he had just enough. So then by the time I come back again, like, cause it was like a 2-week time span between his doctor's appointments and me coming back down there. And I had like stuff for work that I had to do. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be back. Got enough water. This should be gone by the time I get back, and I can, go get you some more. I come back and he only drunk like 2 bottles of the water out the case. And I'm like, yeah, that should have been.
That's not good.
That should have been gone. And then also too, he went back because I tried to make sure he had enough food that then he just like heat it up and everything, just throw it in the oven, heat it up, because he's not a big microwave person. So he's like, I'm going to put it in the oven and heat it up. So I'm like, all right, you got all the packs and everything. He went right back to about everything that was not helping him. And so I'm like, okay. And then we go to the doctor, and the doctor's like, talking to him about stuff. And so I'm asking him questions, and his doctor's like, are you a doctor? Because like the questions you're asking me are, not like the average, question. I was like, oh, well, I'm a chronic pain coach. He's like, so he does like a look at my dad, and it looks like he's like, your daughter's a chronic pain coach. You're not listening to anything that she's saying to you. And my dad just like starts to do is like, he's like, no, that's not funny. Like, I was like, she's like trying to help you.
Watch your parents get scolded.
Yeah. I was very entertained. I'm like, yes, continue. I've been waiting for this day. Like, but yeah, it's just, watching those different pieces and things happen. But like, I've noticed that too, that I feel like he has actually gotten worse since my mom transitioned. And I don't know if she was, covering for him, or if it truly is that the grief has taken over so much in him and the depression has creeped up, where now he's kind of just there.
So my immediate grief after my mom passed did not trigger the physical ailments. But, it was a depressive state. When I had a pretty bad breakup and my best friend passed, that's when grief struck. And it was a different grief, like parent and family passing, and because the emotions are different. Right. Something about the emotions are different. Like it just hit me a lot differently, and I could see my grief. Like I had an out of body experience.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen the Netflix show Made.
I feel like I have, but continue.
But it was a single woman who had a baby by a man who was abusive, and she got away and stayed in a she finally got away, and she got like rehabilitated. She was in a women's center or whatever. It's like, and then she ended up taking a job as a maid, and she was making money doing that. But somehow throughout the series, she eventually got back with the guy, and the representation of depression of her laying on this couch. And it was a scene where she was on this couch, and she literally was sank into the couch, into the crack of the couch, and was like down in a cavern. And she could hear everything going on, because it was like day after day after day. It was they reenacted like every single day for like 5 minutes. Like every day the guy would come home, drink, blah blah blah. She was laying on the couch every day, and then you would see him night and day. And she was kind of just showing the repetition of her day, but she never moved off that couch, and she sank deeper and deeper in the couch. And I was my first time seeing like, that's me. Yeah. Like, I ain't left this couch in forever. It's the irony of me watching this movie.
Right. At the same time.
At the same time, watching depression. Like, that is the perfect depiction. And that's when I was like, I'm depressed. Like, I need to get up out of here.
Yeah.
45 pounds later.
But no, and seriously, that's what ends up happening though, too. It's like when something happens to someone else, like, for example, I see I'm trying to talk in code, but I guess I can't. So someone very close to me, their parent transitioned, and that triggered the hell out of me. And I didn't even think that was going to happen, because I was trying to be more of the supportive person to that person and be like, hey, you know, I'm here for you wherever you need. And after I got the phone call that, you know, they had passed, I was balled up crying. And I'm like, why am I balled up crying? Like, this is my parent, you know? And I was like, oh, like, this is me finally actually having the grief that I didn't have the opportunity to have at that time, because I had so much going on. I can
relate to that.
I had to, you know, plan the funeral, do all the things.
Wow.
And then on top of that, then go have surgery. Then surgery went bad. Like, you know, I had all these things that just like, you know, happened where it's like, I didn't, like I didn't get the opportunity to really grieve. And even now, you know, looking at it, I'm like, okay. And so just like looking at it, so it's one of those things where now, you know, your body actually holds on to that memory too. So like with this year, with everything kind of coinciding with the dates and the day and stuff, I was like, oh shit, like this is not how I want things to go. And I'm like, I got a lot of important stuff happening this week. Like, for example, the gathering happening tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. over at Potawatomi Bingo and Casino with Jammin' 98.3, because
you sound like a radio personality.
Hey, that because I am, because that's what she said, you know.
When is that? That's what she said. When is that?
That airs multiple times a day. Okay. So it's usually like in the beginning of the hour. So then they'll have me be like one of the first parts of the commercial segment. So I either am like the first part or the middle or the end. So it kind of just varies.
I need to open up my ears and listen to the regular radio. I don't listen to the regular radio anymore.
Well, you know, there is a link. I can send you a link, and you can actually go ahead and listen to it on your computer.
I can
or
do
your
that.
phone.
I can support that way.
Okay.
I forget. I actually forget to listen to the radio.
It's okay.
I've been listening to De La Soul quite a bit recently. So speaking of grief.
Yeah. And I was going to say that's definitely understandable. And then also Biggie was the 9th. So which was that yesterday? Wait a minute. Like that really was March yesterday. 9th, I'm like, why does it feel like it was last week? But it's no, it was really yesterday. So it's like looking at it, and that was 26 years, which that blows me, because like to sit there and think about it. Yeah. That's what I was sitting there thinking about, because it's like my son is 23. And so with me, like, like I was sitting there, like, you know, carry the one, like, oh, you know, sitting there doing the math. I'm like, that really was 26 years ago. It's like,
I've been out of college 26 years. Damn.
Yes, you have. Damn. Yeah. But even like looking at that, or even like looking at Tupac, it's like, you know, it's the coinciding of like different things that happen. It's like you remember what happened or what was going on in your life when those different things were happening as well too.
So I did mention kind of a rough breakup. Grief comes in different forms too. It's not just death that causes grief. But the way you recover from that is probably similar. The way you have to recover from it, even though it's different causes. The experience that I had, I remain friends with the person, and maybe prolong the grief by doing that. And I thought that was going to be healthy, but it probably isn't, and I'm still saying isn't right now, even to this day, because it's it does trigger. But then all of a sudden you have an interaction with the person, like, that's why we're not together. I get it.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like with me, I can say I'm actually only dealing with one of my exes, and that's literally my ex-husband, because I'm just that person where I'm like, when we're done, we have nothing else more to discuss. I'm just that person where I'm like, you're literally, that's another, even though I'm going to say it like this, but I'm like, you're dead to me. Like, it's like, I have a mental funeral for you.
Yeah.
I'll let you be. And if I happen to see you in the street, I'm like, oh shit, you're still alive. It's like one of those, I'm like, oh my God. And like, and they're looking at me like, what's going on?
But okay, I'm gonna challenge you on this. So the women always say this, because you're not the only one who said this. So mental funeral, you're dead to me kind of thing. There had to be a grieving moment.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. All right. No, I want to make sure you're the one's like, oh yeah, I'm out. Fuck you.
Right. No, I definitely did have like the grieving moments and everything, especially like even with my divorce, because it's like that is the only person that out of my exes that I talk to, but that's because we have children. So it's like we're, co-parenting. And even with that was very difficult. I mean, we're now in a good space now within the past like maybe 4 years or so. But prior to that, we were not.
Same here. Like, I mean, we every so often I get a text from my ex-wife, and we'll be going back and forth for like an hour, and then I won't talk to her for another like 3 months or so. Right. But it's not bad. She's not an integral part of my daily life, but we're cool. I'm probably cool with more of my exes than I should be.
And that's wonderful that you're able to do that, but I'm not that person. So you got to know yourself. I know that's not me.
One in particular I probably shouldn't, but I don't understand what it is. It's almost as if it's like living death over and over again to a certain extent, like putting myself in position to actually have that same kind of anxiety.
Look, now you're gonna make me dig into this deeper. Let me take a sip.
Shout out to Happy Days Day Bar.
Yeah. Had to take the drink out the way so you can see my face.
Hey, so they do make us drink. We go up there and get a drink before we come down here. We're in the Sherman Phoenix, and we go up there and get a drink, and they give us to-go glasses, and they happen to give you a mason jar.
They did, because I'm loved. So I love the mason jar. He was actually going to give me a top for it. I was like, I don't need a top, just give me a straw. It's
only because they want to keep their glasses. I think one time I brought a glass down here and I brought it up, and Patrice looked at me with a side eye, like, how'd you get that downstairs?
I walked down the stairs.
But I'm a responsible Negro.
Right. So I brought it back.
Right.
Like, and it's actually cleaned. I took it home, washed it, and brought it back. Like, it's a brand new glass.
Back on the shelf over there, girl. You got it. I sanitized it. Go ahead.
That's how you know we are responsible adults with kids. Because that's like you like, even when I go out to dinner, I'm that person that like piles up the plates and everything. I stack everything up and I push it to the side for her. She's like, oh, your mom. I'm like, yes, I am.
I used to wait tables, so that's why I do it. So
that's one thing I've never done.
No,
I just didn't get to that phase.
That was college. Okay. It's actually pretty lucrative.
I bet
it was pretty lucrative. I mean, back then, going home with $40 in your pocket every night in college,
it's good.
That's like going home with a stack of like 1,000. Like, I was balling. Every night.
I mean, I've debated on like doing bartending, because I mean, I did like a little bartending, but I'm not like legal bartender, so like doing that. But I've debated on it. But I mean, going back to, of course, because
we got off track.
We tangent. we're tangenteers. Look, I just made that up, by the way. But looking at, like you said, with the exes and things like that, why do you feel like you have to remain friends with them? I'm just curious. I'm asking because I've heard other people that do the same, and I've always been curious about it. Like with me personally, like I said, 9 times out of 10. And I hate to say it like this, but they've done something to me. So that's why we're not together anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's always like my kind of comical thing that I would say. Like if I'm dealing with someone, I'll say, just so you know, I'm like, it's never going to be me. It's going to be you that's going to mess this up. And then they'll just look at me like, what do you mean? And then I'm like, fast forward, like in SpongeBob time, like, 5 years later, like, I told you.
Didn't have to eat that shit. Now, I know it wasn't a circumstance in particular that broke us up, but, and it wasn't like a cheating or anything. It was definitely us getting to a point where we said, yeah, this is not working. Mm-hmm. More so me. So like being used to working through a little bit of toxicity and remaining in a relationship longer than I probably should. Thought maybe we could work through it. But she was kind of like, this ain't working. This ain't. I'm like, what? Like, come on. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be honest with myself and probably say in the first stage of me remaining friends, I was hopeful that there was going to be some reconciliation. Okay. So I stuck around hoping that was going to be the case. Mm-hmm. The second phase of me said, okay, no reconciliation, but maybe I can actually operate as a friend. Mm-hmm. There'd be moments of, hey, this is feeling good. Mm-hmm. And I would go back to that first phase again. Now it's just more so we're business partners. Gotcha. And there absolutely is no reconciliation, but we still operate in the same fashion to a certain. It's almost like it's almost no different, other than we don't have sex and we don't, aren't romantically intimate in any way. Because we still go head to head and argue and whatever. But I guess we both have the same goal in mind. Now the problem is me dating someone new. Mm-hmm. Is that something that somebody else is going to be accepting of? Right. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, see, I think that's a little bit different of a situation, though, because if you are actual like business partners and everything, that's different. But if it's just like, I think if it's just like a random, and I don't want to say random like that, but I mean, just like, like, hey,
like random hookups and.
No, not like that. I mean, just like a person that's like that you don't really have any kind of ties to like at all. Mm-hmm. And you're still friends with them. Like you don't have kids, you don't have nothing. It's just like, it didn't work out, but you guys are still
hanging. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No. Yeah. That's literally, I mean, if someone were to investigate, like,
not investigate.
I know, but I'm saying, I mean, if they
Stabler and Benson come in,
you know what I'm saying? Like, so what is the nature of your relationship? Like they would absolutely see the pros of us still being in cahoots with each other. But and I actually said, and like, when you get somebody or I get somebody, we got to come back to the table and talk about this. And she said, yeah, but it's been a year and a half, maybe.
Okay. And we haven't. So that's still kind of new.
Yeah.
It's still kind of fresh.
Yeah. It's probably, I mean, I guess September this year would be 2 years. Okay. So yeah, it's still kind of new, but in relationship, like days, it's pretty far away. Mm-hmm. I'm past the grieving stage at this point, so I'm no longer in that space. Mm-hmm. I think one thing that I think a part of, I forgot this other stage. This other stage of me is like blaming her, because when we broke up, not long after that, my best friend passed, and she had left and went to like Spain or something like that during that process of my grieving. And I'm like, you left me like twice.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing, though. It's like, because honestly, she didn't have to be there for you.
She didn't,
because y'all ain't together.
Had no, yeah, and I know that.
Mm-hmm. But it's like you wanted to pin it on somebody.
Somebody like, dude, I have nobody right now. Like I'm just out here by myself trying to figure this out.
Right.
But well past that as well. So like, but I can speak on it now, but I know that was grief. That was definitely grief. And I was not healed. I was not healed from the breakup, and grief started all over again with a whole nother different format of grief. But there's absolutely nothing that can compare to the loss of a parent. And there's absolutely nothing that can be compared to the loss of a mother. It's indescribable. I cannot describe it.
No, and that's the thing too. And it's one of those that I really don't wish it on anyone. Like I don't wish it on my worst enemy, to go through any of that and having to see any of that. I mean, like for myself, I mean, I was there. Mm-hmm. So for some people, I know it's different where they get a phone call, saying like hearing about it, but to be physically in the room and watching someone take their last breath.
Yeah, I was there too.
That's a whole different ball game of things where you're just like, wow. And then to be able to see now, some of the things I even do, which is funny, like my kids are like, grandma used to do that. And I'm just like, shit.
So how was their relationship with your mother? Was pretty close, or?
Yeah, my kids were pretty good. Like, especially my son, of course, was like, definitely, because I mean, we lived with my parents like the first like 2 years, until the time he's like 1.5, 2. We were there. And even when because they moved in 2002, so right before he turned 3, they moved. And so he was like used to us, even though I didn't live there, I was there every day, like getting my food, like all right, gotta get my plate, gotta go, like, I'm going back to my house, and doing that. But it was hard on him where he actually, it didn't hit him until he was in college, because it was a senior year of high school when she had transitioned. And so then when he went to Platteville for college, that's when it hit him. And we had to actually go get him and bring him back because it was that bad, because he stopped going to class.
I can see that.
And so then we're like, okay, what's going on? And of course, with him already being an adult, they can't tell us that he's not going to classes or anything, which is the part that sucks, because it's like, okay, I basically just, tricked off 12 grand, but hey, like I'm just writing checks, like Diddy, like I'm just writing.
Fuck them kids.
I'm like, do you know what I could have did with that? How many vacations I could have took? No. Right. Like, but that's okay, but just to be able to look at that. My middle child definitely affected a lot, because they were actually named after my mom. So their middle name was my mom's name, which my mom's name was Jasmine. And so that hit hard. Like at the actual funeral itself, I was trying to watch them like put my mom in the hearse, and my child started screaming at the top of their lungs. And so I had to actually like grab my child and hold my child. So I couldn't actually watch.
How old were they when they?
10.
She was 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was about 10, I believe. So yeah. Yep. Because just turned 16. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry. They were 10.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And no, it's okay. And then the youngest was 5. Was about to be 5 actually. So she was actually 4. At the time.
So kind of young.
Yeah. So, but she remembers, everything too. But the thing that was interesting that the funeral home had said to me, because we literally had a going home, like we had a party. Like we turned up, like we had a DJ, we had like everything going.
That's what I'm talking about.
In the funeral home. And they were like, they had, because, they still had on like their suits and stuff. Well, by the time that like things are going on, like they had their suit coats off, they had like their sleeves up, they took their ties off and everything. It's like, we had never had nothing like this in here before. And of course, a bunch of white people, as well. It's all these black people are like in here, but we're all West Indian. So we're playing like, we're playing reggae music, playing like all my mom's favorite songs. I had my cousin do a whole mixtape of my mom's favorite songs and everything. So that way we can play them all. Then did a slideshow. So then those were like, playing in the background. My mom's friend got food catered. So like we had like, jerk chicken, all that kind of stuff like that. So we had like a really like a home.
You have any green beans?
No, we didn't. Well, we did not have the repast green beans because that was not part of our culture, sir. Definitely had plantain, ackee, and saltfish, and codfish, all that kind of stuff like that. So.
I did, and I need to actually do that. I got the number of the person to do my planning, but I sent a very detailed explanation to the person who is
your executor.
Yes, of my expectation of when I pass. I do not want sad music. I do not want the typical church setup. I do want to be cremated. I do want hip hop played. I want a DJ. I want a party. I want you to go and turn up do not be sad. Do not be crying. Do not,
And that's exactly what we did, because I knew that that's what she wanted. And I did it that way. Now, we almost did not have the funeral at the church. And that was because me and the priest got into it. And so
this is the spiritual alchemist.
So what ended up happening?
She fights priests.
I do not fight priests. I mean, almost did, but I do not fight priests on purpose. So what ended up happening is that somehow, some way, my mom just transitioned over to being Catholic out of like nowhere. Like, she was Anglican for like almost 80 years, because she was 79 when she transitioned. So for like 78 years, she was Anglican. And all of a sudden she just decided that she wanted to become Catholic, which I'm like, okay, weird, but weird flex, but okay, I'll go with it. So we ended up having the funeral, of course, at a Catholic church. And she was cremated. And so we were just, talking about things. And he's like, well, are you going to still have like the body, or are you going, because he's like, if they're cremated, you can't have some weird Catholic stuff. This is why why I do not practice this. And it's no offense to anyone else that does. You do what you do, you boo boo. But for me, it was just like a situation. It wasn't for me. So they're like, well, if when she gets cremated, you can't separate the ashes. Because he's asking me, what are we doing afterwards? So I said, well, I know she wants to be, in a casket in the, in there. So I said, okay, we'll go ahead and do that. I said, but afterwards, I said, she is going to be getting cremated. We are going to have, separate urns. And he's like, oh, you can't do that. I said, what do you mean I can't do that? I said, it's my mother. I can do whatever I want. And that's how the conversation started.
Right.
Where I'm like, you can't tell me what to do after I leave these doors. Like, you're not even invited to the, like, you ain't invited to the repast. Like, like, what you trying to, like, you can't turn up with us. Like, like, what you mean? So it turned into like, and my dad's just like sitting there, just like watching us. Cause he's in shock. So he like, is not talking or anything, but he's just like, what just happened? Cause finally I said, you know what? I said, okay, if we're going to continue like this, I said, then we're not going to have it here. I said, we'll just do everything at the funeral home. I said, we're good. He's like, no, he's like, no, I know your mom would really want it to be here. So he's like, I'm just going to stop. Like, he's like, this is, I shouldn't even be, going this far with you anyways. I said, yeah. I said, because we're grieving right now. Like, why are you making things more harder than, more difficult?
Because as a pastor, because I grew up Lutheran. So the Lutheran is just a spinoff of Catholicism. They have doctrine that they follow and has to be this way, has to be that way.
I know.
And the tough thing about it is it's not God-driven doctrine. It's man-interpreted doctrine.
Exactly.
And that's when I'm like,
And that's what I remember I did say something to that effect too. I said, you're trying to basically play God. And I said, you're not. I said, I was like, the God that I believe in wouldn't be having this conversation right now. That God would be giving me a hug.
Right.
Not arguing with me after my mother just transitioned 2 days ago. It's not like the conversation for me to be having, because I was about to walk. Like, I picked up all the paperwork and was starting to walk out. My dad's like, wait. And I'm like, he's like, what is happening? I was like, we're not having it here. I said, that's what we're not doing. And that's when, that conversation stopped. And I'm like, dude, this is not the time when someone is, deep in grief. You're not supposed to be trying to like tell them what to do, when I was like, this is what my mother's final wishes were. Like, I'm literally going through, like, the folder I had was her final wishes. I'm like, why are you trying to, test me on this?
The tough thing about grieving and taking care of people's last wishes is that we interject our personal feelings. And it becomes kind of a selfish thing, because you start actually doing and planning things for what you would like for this person who is no longer here. And the tough reality is they ain't here no more.
Right.
And it don't really matter to them. I mean, their last wishes that but all that stuff that we do is for us.
Absolutely.
And then when people start actually arguing and getting into, and I'm not saying your argument with the pastor, I'm saying like family members arguing with each other and fighting over stuff.
Right.
Like, dude, they're not even here anymore. So why, like,
exactly. And that's the one good thing about being the only child, that I really don't have to do any of that. Like right now, the only thing I'm fighting over is my dad, just to actually get stuff handled in the house because to this day, he has not let me move my mother's things out of the house. So it looks like she's on vacation. And I feel like that's making things worse for him.
I can say the same thing when I left my dad's house. There are a lot of things that are in place. They used to be doll collectors.
Okay.
And they would like go to thrift shops and markets and pop-ups and everything and just collect dolls. And I was leaving out the house last night. It was snowing like hell last night. I don't even know why. They stay in Oak Creek. I'm driving from Oak Creek, but he had at least a 12 or 14 inch tall like doll in a box. And I looked at it. It was Tim Duncan. I was like, what? Why is this out here?
Right. Like, you about to sell this? Because, I mean, you probably going to get some bank on it.
Well,
like...
they got all kinds. They got MC Hammer dolls. Yeah, Steve Urkel dolls. They got every single.
They got Michael Jackson.
They got Michael Jackson with the glove and a record. It came with it. They got everything. And
my father-in-law actually has that one because I remember him having that in the basement.
So they get the sunglasses you can take off.
With the little glittery jacket.
That's hilarious. But he goes through stuff. And I think he's out. I mean, he's just thinking about it, I guess. I mean, it's definitely I remember she had passed on New Year's Day, and I remember taking her Christmas gift. We went and got her a Christmas gift, and I took it up there, and she was at the house, and I left it there, and she was like, "Just put it on the dresser. I'll get to it." And obviously, she passed away, and then she never opened the gift. The gift is still in her room on the dresser.
Oh, wow.
Still wrapped there, just still sitting there. And I don't even go back there.
Yeah.
I don't even go back there. When I come in there, I stay up front and I go out.
I was going to say, that's another thing I noticed too. I'm the same way. Like, I try not to go into their bedroom unless I really have to. And if I really have to, it's like a, like, okay, it's there. All right, got it. And then I leave it out. It's like, I don't go that side of the house because I remember the first time I came back to visit after she transitioned, I was so used to doing what I normally do, which is when I walk in, I'm like, "Hey, Ma," but I just like do it like really loud and obnoxious, and so I did that, and I'm like, "Fuck."
Yeah, that's rough.
And that's when I was like, "All right, this ain't it. I'm going somewhere else." Like, and I just left. And luckily I did it before my dad came in because he was still in the garage. So he's like still like picking up stuff, and he's like, "You okay?" Because like then I just like went into the bathroom and started crying because I'm like, she ain't here. Like, she ain't gonna come out, like how she normally does. And then she'll be like, "Why are you always?" And she was like, "Why you always gotta be so loud?" And it's like, because I'm
you
like,
mama.
Right. I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm here." Like, right. But yeah, it's like those things that those memories. That occur. But even looking at that and looking at that's one of those things where sometimes people say like, what's your worst fear, and like for me that was definitely like one of my worst fears is just like losing a parent. But what was crazy about it is that I always for some strange reason thought it was gonna be my dad that was gonna go first. I never thought it was gonna be my mom. And so when that happened, that's what really threw me, because I would even talk to her. I'd be like, "Yeah, sis, so what are we going to do when he's gone?" Like we literally like, and not just be like joking with her. And she's like, "I don't know." She's like, "You're going to have a mental breakdown, though. I know that." I said, "Yeah, probably so." I'm like, "What about you?" She's like, "Yeah," like that's like how we'd have those conversations. And I'm like, okay.
That's funny. I've never crossed my mind. Never crossed, which is so crazy that it don't cross your mind, but yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, though, it's because my parents were older when they had me. So I already was like kind of like waiting. Like, it was like one of those things because my parents were, which is another thing. I am now the age that my mother was when she had me. And so when that happened, like when I had my birthday, I just had like this epiphany where I'm like, wow, like, so you're this age. But at the same token, it's like, what were you going through at that age? To think about it. Because I'm like, okay, yeah, it was 1980. I'll give it, give or take. I'm like, yeah, it's definitely a different time. But like thinking back to what were my parents going through at the age that I was at, or what information did they have that they could give to me, as well. And unfortunately, like my relationship with my dad, as far as we're trying to have those conversations, is very difficult because I've been trying to get into that let's get to know each other better, kind of like phase of things. And he ain't going for it. So I'm like, okay, like I got to just kind of let that go. Because versus with myself and my mom, we would have those conversations. So I'm like, "Hey, Ma, like curious about this." And she's like, "Okay." And then we'll just like start talking about it. Because like what would end up happening when I would come to visit, we would stay up till like 2 or 3 in the morning, like just talking. and I'd sit on her bed, you know, and like curl up with her, and we'll just sit there and talk for like hours. And my dad be like, I want to go to bed. Y'all in my bed. And I'm like, fine. So then we'll like go into my room, you know, and then we'll sit there and continue. And then he'll wake up in the middle of the night. He's like, so you're just going to keep talking all night? Like, that's what you guys are going to do? And my mom's like, what? And she's like, I'm just resting my eye. You know, like one of those things or whatever. It's like those memories.
I'm sure those are fun because, you know, as they got older, they did share more. And
that's what I really want to get to, that part with my dad, because I know he has a lot of stories. And so I want to get to that part where, you know, recording that information, because like, for example, my dad has a school. He has a whole school in Dominica that is named after him, that he, you know, has done stuff down there. And I'm like, I've never seen it, you know, and I want to, because I want to get down there before he transitions and everything, to go down there together. But he's also, like I said, you know, sick right now. So he's like barely walking and stuff like that. So he is just like a walker and things. And even watching that has been crazy, because this is all, he's 84. So he'll be 85 in July.
So yeah, probably the same age as my stepdad.
And so like there were 7, like I remember too, because my mom was 79 when she transitioned. And it's like I was talking about planning her party. Because I was like, dude, I was like, for your 80th birthday, I said, we going out. Like I said, we going all the way, you know, and doing all those things. And like when his 80th hit, I couldn't do it. And he didn't want anything anyways. He's like, no, I'm good. But like I did something for him for his 79th, just because that was like his first birthday without her. So I flew him up here, you know, we did stuff, and then had him go back down, and he was, you know, I thought he was okay. But then, like I said, I've watched the decline in his health since she's gone. So it's just, you know, watching it and seeing it. But then also too, on the flip side, is watching the things that now I'm going through as far as continuing on my own healing journey, and like, you know, being able to forgive the things that happened, you know, as far as growing up with them and understanding like, hey, y'all didn't really have the tools, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, we didn't have all this therapists and things like, yeah, granted therapy and stuff was there, but it wasn't so mainstream that, you know, people are like, let's go do this and let's go do that. Or maybe I shouldn't be yelling at my kids, or maybe I shouldn't be beating the hell out of them, or maybe I should, you know, like all these kind of things like that. But, and, you know, side note, I only got like 3 whippings in my life. So that just let y'all know that I got lucky.
Whatever.
I was a belt hider.
This is a badass kid.
My only child.
That don't mean nothing. That means absolutely nothing.
Only child that's a daddy's girl up until I turned a teenager.
That's when you lost it.
Yeah, I was no longer a daddy's girl after that point. After I turned, I think 17, kind of went downhill. But hey, what can you do?
Make sure that your children don't do the same.
Pretty much. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we do have like a lot of communication. Like my middle one actually was just telling me something today that they were like, don't tell dad. And I'm like, I said, as long as you're not going to hurt anyone, you don't have a plan to hurt anyone. Like, I just like went through like this whole list of things, and they're like, no, it's none of those. I said, okay, continue.
Okay.
And so I'm like, all right, Mike, you felt open enough to share information with me. That's good.
Yeah, we don't. Well, if something is kept from me, I do get upset, because they'll all know something and I won't know something. And I'm like, well, y'all trying to keep this from me? Like, I'm daddy. Like, the hell? The hell? You just reminded me. I gotta call my youngest. She's in where is she? Portugal. She's in Portugal.
Man,
now.
Your kids just be living the life. Can I be one of the kids? Look,
somebody else asked me that. Like, yeah. My brother's there. He's retired and he's just living life. And I am very, very proud of the fact that that's what he's doing, because I want to do the same. Because recently, like actually within the last couple of days, one of my college professors just passed away, but he had just like retired maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
Oh.
And next thing I know, I saw pictures of him. I thought maybe they were like celebrating his retirement. I was like, he passed? Wow. You didn't get to live the retirement.
Right, to actually enjoy it. But you know what? They say that happens a lot of times to people because of the fact that they're so used to working that they don't know what to do when they're not working. Because even like my dad, for example, he picked up another full-time job after he retired down there. And I called him. I said, dude, what the hell are you doing? Like, you just worked like umpteen years. Like, you've been working since you were 13. And like, you know, so like you went down, he's like, It's like, I'm bored. I just want to go ahead and got full pension again down there. So he had another pension that he's getting from down there because of him, working. And I'm just like,
well, there we go.
So I'm like, okay, yeah. So he gets that too. But, I'm going to still, looking at like, I don't want to be that way.
No, but, we're not, I know I'm not as fiscally prepared for retirement yet. And I want to be, looking for other avenues right now. But if something happened right now, I don't know what shape I'll be in. It's kind of scary.
If any financial advisors are listening to the show, Tommy needs your assistance right now. He needs to know what he can do to move.
You see this gray?
He needs to move this brick. No, he's not.
Right.
He's like, he needs to move this, this whole thing, so that way he could be good.
I don't move bricks, but if a brick were to come my way and it was a way to move it without being jailed,
he's like, I wouldn't be mad about it.
Yes, I would not be mad. I would flip that brick.
Flip that bird.
Move that dope.
That is funny. But no, I agree. It's like, you want to be able to go ahead and still really enjoy yourself after these different things, and being able to go ahead and just know how to move through them. Because I think every time that something has happened now, it's like I've learned to move through it differently. And it's like I have additional tools that I can use. But I think sometimes when it hits, though, when that grief really hits, you forget your tools.
Yeah.
Like I have my spiritual advisor, like when all that was going on with, the person close to me, parent transition, I like messaged her. I said, I don't know why I'm on the ground crying. She's like, okay, go do this, this, and this. I was like, thank you. Like I just need someone just to tell me, what to do.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm so used to being the one that's the doer and that's telling everyone else what to do. It's like, okay, well, who's going to tell me what to do?
I mean, you technically have been through it. So, I think the empathy that you had took over.
Absolutely.
Because, seeing somebody go through what you went through is not it's not easy.
No, not at all. And I mean, I've done it before for two other friends. Actually, their moms transitioned after my mom transitioned as well. And I helped with all that stuff, but I was like in it. And I think because I was so in it, it still gave me that buffer where I wasn't really like allowing myself to feel anything. I just was like in the doer mode and the helping out mode. But this time I pulled back. I was like, yeah, I'm going to just be over here, while all this is happening. Like, let me know if you need me, but I'm going to be over here in the back crying. So if you need, just let me know. And the thing is that this person doesn't even know this. I never said anything about any of this. I just played it so cool, like that nothing was going on. So if they're listening to this, they know now.
Damn, you was hella supportive.
Right. Like, he's the best support person I've ever known. Like, I was having a mental breakdown while this is going on in the background.
This conversation is making me actually, you're reminding me to reach out to somebody. I'll reach out to them after the show because a weird loss that I had was somebody that I dated at one point and they had passed away suddenly. I was like, this is weird. It's a weird. It was very much a weird feeling. Like, man, we are not that far from age, and we shared a lot of stuff together. So that's kind of weird. But I have to reach out to that sibling. Yeah,
that actually happened to my son. Like one of his girlfriends actually, and this happened while he was in high school. She actually died by suicide.
Oh wow!
And that was a hard one for him because he actually ended up losing 3 friends to suicide while he was in high school.
Wow.
Which to me has been wild because I don't know of anyone personally that has died by suicide, but for my son to know 3, within the 4 years that he was in high school, I'm like, that's a very short period of time to have, 3 people that you were fairly close to, have that happen.
Yeah.
And so, that was an interesting one for him because he's like, I'm not with this person. I have a whole different girlfriend, and everything, but still.
Right. Yeah. It's why it's weird. Like, whoa, that hit close. It's and then you're like, what if that happened if we were together, kind of thing? Like, because it's one of those sudden deaths that you didn't see coming. But
then again, do you ever see death coming? Unless it's I feel like unless someone's been diagnosed with something, other than that, it's kind of like it happens out of left field.
Yeah, that is true.
Because a diagnosis usually kind of semi-prepares you a little bit, even though you still might not necessarily know, but it's kind of like, okay, you have this going on. So the potential is there that could happen. But if it's just like a car, like all the different, random things that could possibly happen.
Yeah.
It's definitely different. But also too, going back to what you were saying before with like the different types of grief as well, it's not necessarily just, the actual physical death of someone. It can be, the end of a job, like you might have been there for a long time and like you're switched out, now you're somewhere else, but it's like you had a good bond with like some of your coworkers, for example. And then that's one that can be tricky, as well, because it's like you kind of want to try to stay in contact with some of the people, but then that kind of like fades out, as well, too. Where then like you might just be only Facebook friends. Shout out to my Facebook friends, by the way, that I used to work with. But it like kind of ends up being, like that route, as well, too.
Yeah, had that happen, too. Like that's trauma. It's traumatic. It is traumatic because, you don't see it coming. Like when it hits you blindside, it definitely does. And I'm a very emotional being. I'm a Cancer.
Yes, you are. Waters run deep.
Yes. But I learned that I'm a Virgo moon, though.
Really?
Yes.
Guess who else is a Virgo moon?
Who's that? Oh, yeah.
Look at y'all.
So it's a little complication to me, but at the same time, I am I think I'm emotionally intelligent, but there's somewhat of a selfishness to it to a certain extent sometimes. But I internalize stuff pretty deep. Like words mean a lot. Like if I hear something.
I am the same exact way as well too. Where like I'm very particular with the words that I use. And that's something, but I'm also triple water. So I'm a little different. Triple water. That's very rare. That's what they always say to me all the time. Like when I have like different readings and things like that done, they'll look at me, they're like, you're double Scorpio with the Cancer ascendant. You're triple water like that. Like I'm like, yeah, I know. There's no, just the water.
I'm still learning.
It's a lot to learn, but it's definitely, it's helpful.
It is helpful. I don't lean on it, but when people tell me things about it, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I can see that being the case.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the science of it than anything, because I think that's where people, can kind of get a little bit more misconstrued. Because they'll be like, I don't believe in the okay, cool, but there's still other scientific parts behind it that I mean. Being able to look at the exact placements in the sky of where you were born can be helpful. Yeah,
because that stuff is like very tangible. Very tangible. It's not like a belief system. It's something that you can actually just document it somewhere. I mean, the moon's movement and its pull on the earth and energy, that's all real stuff. But
science.
It is. It is. It's all real stuff. I mean, nature actually abides by it. So why would we not be affected by it?
No, I agree. So, and being able to go ahead and use that information to your best ability. I mean, right now I'm trying to channel my mom because she was an earth sign. And so she could grow like nobody. Like I could be like, here's this twig. Do something with it, and all of a sudden I come back. I'm like, "How did you sprout the twig? Like, how did like that's like how she was?" So, I bought a jasmine plant because my mom's name is Jasmine, and I'm like, "Okay." I'm just sitting there. I'm like, "All right, put you in the sun. You're in my office with me," and so I sit there and like I'll go talk to it and everything. It's starting to bud, and I think it's going to bud out on Monday. I think it's going to flower on Monday.
That's one thing I can't do. I cannot talk to my plants, but I know I need to talk to them. I need to talk to them.
Well, that's what she used to do. Cause I was sitting there like thinking about it. Cause like she would go and talk to all of them. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, where are you? She's like talking to my plants. I'm like, they love it. She's like, look how they grow. I'm like, but you talk to them nicer than you talk to me. That's where the issues coming into play right now. She's like, what? I'm like, you're mean. Okay. That's what I'm just gonna put out here. You're a mean person and I want to get the love that the plants are getting. I'm like, can you give that to me?
No, I've recently got plants and I don't talk to them the way I need to. I know I do. But
I think you just need to have a whole full on conversation.
It's tough.
No, it's just a little introduction. Like, hey y'all, Just start off like that. You ain't gotta be too deep.
Hey y'all.
You know, that's what I do. Like if I come in now, I'm like, hey Jazz, what's up? And sit there and talk with her, have a little conversation. Like, need a little, like, let me touch you for a second. So I'm not trying to be funny, with you just want to touch it, just want to touch it. Like, okay, you need a little water. Go ahead and get some.
So we've talked grieving. We haven't talked about the healing. We haven't talked much about the healing and recovery from the grief.
Well, thank you, because that's why you're here. No, definitely, you know, looking at the other side of it is like now seeing, okay, where do you want to be? Where do you want to go with it? And I think for me, like the first steps for me was just really being like, okay, what do I want my life to look like now moving forward? Because that was a hard one initially, because I did have suicidal thoughts and things like that after my mother had transitioned, just because of the fact that I lost my best friend. And then I also was going through, you know, all of my medical stuff, you know, at that time as well, too. And that was the person that was guiding me because of her being a retired nurse. And like, she was actually supposed to be there with me when I was going through my recovery, you know, from my surgery, because she had transitioned 3 weeks before my surgery.
Right.
And so looking at, you know, all of that, being like, okay, what do I want things to look like? How do I want things to be? And then going through the process of embodying that. And that was hard within itself, because I still was, you know, kind of looking back instead of trying to look forward, because you kind of get to a point where you're almost like stuck in it for a while. And you do end up going through like the different stages, you know, like the denial, you know, like, and also too, like you said, the blaming, you know, the other person, you know, all those things like that. Like, why'd you leave me here? You know, like
I'm sure, especially since you went to the surgery after that, there was a lot of looking back and regret. And,
and being like, I wish I would have not been on my phone some of them times when I was sitting there watching, while you were watching your movies, you know, and all those things like that.
Yeah. I think eventually, and it's 4 of us all together, and we all have grieved and healed differently. My sister probably didn't heal as well, because she was here and left, and while she was gone, she passed, so she had to come back. So it was kind of like a back and forth thing. I was there, but as I wasn't I have a sibling younger than me, but for the majority of my life, it was just me and my mom. And I look back and I'm like, I was with her all the time. I saw stuff that nobody else probably saw. I got to hang with her. I remember her we would go to Syndic's and get orange juice, fresh squeezed orange juice from with all the pulp and stuff. And she would go down to the lake and she would run, and she would take me. She took classes at UWM, which ironically, she took classes at UWM literally all my life. And somehow when I graduated college, she graduated too. We graduated at the same time. But she came to my graduation and she didn't walk. She just received her certificate, but she came to my graduation. So looking back, I'm like, my healing is, I don't think I regret, you know, times that I should have spent with her, because we were always there. Like I would go there and, you know, I still had a house key. I would come home and she'd be like, what are you doing here? I come home from lunch from like at the school I worked at. I was a teacher, and I would come to her house like for lunch. Like, I'm going to get something to eat. I'm going to my mom's house.
And that's dope to be able to do that. Because like with me too, like we actually had our phone calls every day. So 10 a.m. phone call. And I'd always make sure my break was at that time, even if I was at work or if I was at home, then of course it didn't make a difference. But if I was at work, you know, definitely being able to do that. And that was definitely a hard one too, but not doing that, you know, having those calls. So what I did instead is I started to use that time as like my prayer and meditation time. Like I made sure I was actually doing something during the 10 o'clock hours. So that way I wasn't actually like
waiting for that call.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was something that I feel helped me big time going through my healing, and being like, okay, or like doing some journaling or something like that as well too. But there's this book that, and I wish I would have brought it with me, because I was, you know, I thought about this on the way here of what I want to talk about. But there's this book that I have that actually goes through the steps of grieving, but also gives you the pieces to heal behind it as well too. That's so it gives you the different steps. So like one thing is, the first step it has is you to actually write a letter to that person. And, you know, just expressing how you feel.
That's good.
And I was like, I never thought about that.
That's so simple.
It's like just being able to do that. And then like, you know, and really it's almost like in essence, like a saying a goodbye, you know, kind of like thing. But then at the end it says like, but you're not really saying goodbye.
No.
You're just basically just expressing how you feel. And it might have been stuff that you never got the opportunity to say, but just to be able to go ahead and get it out. And I think that that was a big one that was very helpful for me to do that.
Wow. So simple.
Yeah. And then the next thing I think it had me doing, and I'm just trying to remember because I'm not going to lie to you, I've not finished the book.
Okay.
So I'm like kind of like in the middle of it. And I've had this book for like 5 years, which is okay. Because even in the book, it said, you can take as long or as short of a time as you want to. You just move at your own pace.
You know what? If you'd have read it right away, you would have forgotten half the stuff anyway, because your brain wasn't even in the right space.
Absolutely. And that's the other piece as well, too, to give yourself grace, you know, with the process and know that, you know, it can take you 10 years. It could take you 20 years. You know, honestly, it's like it's all about how, you know, how you're processing it. Because sometimes you may feel like it's just too much, you know, to be able to go ahead and go through. Because for a time being, I was scheduling myself time to do this book. So I'd be like, okay, at 2:00 on this day, I'm going to go and sit here and do it. And it got to the point I'm like, this is too much for me. Like, I can't just sit here and do this. Like, I'm going to go ahead and just take it, you know, chunk it out.
Yeah.
Got you thinking now, huh?
Yeah. I do.
Because like I said, even though it sounds like it's super simple, it can also be hard.
Like I think that's what I'm thinking about right now. I'm like, yeah, that's easy. I just imagine myself writing. And I'm like,
oh yeah, you're gonna be crying.
Yeah.
I mean, what I did was I took it because I'm water, so I took it to the lakefront and I parked the lakefront and I just had everything. I put the book and then my journal, and I sat them right there next to me, and I said, all right, we're gonna go ahead and do this. And as soon as I started doing it, what ended up happening is that it started raining, and it was not scheduled to rain that day. So the thing that's unique with rain is that right after my mom transitioned, it rained really hard. So that was like a connection for me once again, where I'm like, okay, this was supposed to happen the way that it's happening right now, is that I was supposed to do it this way. So I always have a lot of different synchronicities that happen when it comes to things. Even like the other day, I was in my office and I was in a meeting, and I was in a Zoom meeting, and we're trying to like figure out how we can collaborate and everything. And I looked up, and I could look up, and I was like a tree right in front of my house. There are 2 cardinals in the tree, and cardinals have been like a symbol as far as like people that have transitioned.
I've heard that before.
And so it's 2 of them there. So I was like, okay, this is a sign that this can be a good collaboration. So it's like I look at all those different types of things that happen around me. I feel like from this, what's happened is that I am more cognitive. I'm more observant of things that are going on around me. I'm able to pay attention to the synchronicities that are going on. And so then I really use those as confirmation for me. And
those are healing components?
Absolutely. Because then it's making me look like, okay, I am moving forward. You know, that I am, you know, living versus existing.
I think time has literally just healed a lot over, like me even talking about it right now. I don't have the same emotion. I know they say time heals whatever, but then.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I didn't believe that, but you know, I'm definitely not as sad as I was when it first happened.
Yeah.
I mean, there would be goofy things that would happen. I remember calling, I don't know why I called their phone. I called their cell phone, and I heard my voice because I did her voicemail because, you know, like, here, do this for me.
Did you literally hear that in the background too? Do this for me. And all of a sudden you start
and I'm like, oh, I forgot I did that. And I laughed about it because I remember her asking me, because they're so technologically inept.
No, what my dad did that actually pissed me off is he called me from her phone. Like literally like a month after. And I went off on him because he was laughing. He thought it was funny. He's like, well, because she had a prepaid phone. And he's like, well, I don't want the minutes to go. I was like, for you to be concerned about the minutes on the phone and you just gave me a mini heart attack. Because I could pop because I have on that phone, I had my mom's ringtone was apparently by J. Cole.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I heard J. Cole, like,
that triggered.
I'm like, whoa, wait, what's going on? I'm like, that shouldn't be here. I'm like, I shouldn't be hearing that right now.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And so then I answered, I said, hello? He's like, oh, what you up to? I said, nah, this ain't know what you up to. This, why the hell you calling my phone like this on this line? You know, so that was one of those things. But yeah, it's definitely, I can say the same that, you know, I've noticed that me going through all this now, you know, paying attention, really just, you know, getting to know myself more. I feel like it also has brought me, you know, closer to her as well. Because then I can see myself and see the things that she might not have been able to work through that now I can work through. And I can see where, you know, no one is perfect by any means. And I'll never sit up here and be like, my mom was the perfect person. Da, da, da. Like, even when I go into my Facebook memories right now because of this week, like all the different posts of people saying, please pray for, you know, Jasmine, da, 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 da. And like they tag me on it. It's like all that shit's popping up and everything in my memories and stuff. And so I'm looking at it because I don't remember any of this because, you know, when you're going through so much, like when you're going through trauma, your brain to protect you starts to like forget the shit.
Yeah.
And it like, you know, pulls you out of it. So like, I don't remember like majority of these. So now I'm sitting back actually reading them and I'm seeing, I'm like, oh shit, I responded. Like, you know, like, cause I'm like, I don't remember, like, I don't even remember this conversation. Like, I'm like, okay.
The best way to describe, I don't know if you watch enough Spike Lee movies and when they are in deep thought or whatever, and they're not really walking. They're just
they're
floating.
like floating around.
Yeah,
that's exactly
that's
like, especially like in Crooklyn.
Yeah. It's in Crooklyn. It's in it was in
Higher Learning.
Do the Right Thing.
Yep.
What was the other one? When damn, what is his name in Jungle Fever?
It's on School Days too.
School Day. Yep.
That's like that's his signature thing.
That's funny. I saw behind the scenes. They literally are on a platform being pushed.
I saw that as well too.
And it would be thinking Malcolm X. He was floating. You just gotta wait for that moment in the movie. But I literally felt like that's what I was doing from moment to moment, just floating.
Oh yeah,
just floating. I don't remember half the stuff that took place. I do remember being in my basement and listening to music. I was just listening to music, and I didn't come out the basement at all. Yeah, but I think I healed I think I definitely healed myself. I went through a couple therapists, and I think the recovery was just time. I think time just helped me recover, but I don't expect everybody to do the same.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the big piece about it, is that it's never the same for everyone. And I think that that's where it can get tricky too, because, you know, other people will put their expectations on you of what they think your healing should be.
Right.
And that's the part that's so crazy to me, where I'm just like, you know, even with me talking about things now, like, yes, it's been 6 years. But to me, that's been a lifetime, because there's been like so many things that have happened within this time frame where I'm like, you know what, you know, because I do have like an ancestor altar at my house. So I do, you know, go down there. And like I said, now I'm talking to my plant, but I'm also, you know, but I also, you know, do the same thing. Like, well, I'll sit there and I'll talk, you know, and I'll talk to her and I'll have conversations. And I feel like for me, that's something that's been helpful. But for other people, you know, there's a connotation of like, you're crazy, you know, because you're like literally going over there, sitting there, you know, having a conversation. But being able to go ahead and be like, you know what, I'm not concerned about what others think and feel about how I'm processing this. Because like the first piece of how I was processing as well was I was saying that, you know what, she's on, and this was like, because me and her used to like joke so much that I would say that, you know, she's on a vacation from all of us because she's just sick of her shit. And she was like, I don't even want to come back. Like, I'm just having an amazing time right now. You know, I'm having my drinks and everything flowing. Like, I know I didn't drink, you know, before, but I'm doing it now. You know, like I'm just like enjoying myself. And that's what has helped me, because I know that it's like something that she would laugh at. She'd be like, really? Because like, even when she was in the hospital bed and I was like because she couldn't talk because she had a tube down. But I was still cracking jokes, and I could see her like, like shake, like going like this. And I'm like, oh, I was like, you knew that was funny. I'm like, don't even act like it wasn't funny. And then I could see her like trying to like laugh. I'm like, see, gotcha. Like I knew it. That's like, funny. But being able to do that is less, seeing the sense of humor, and that's part of the, all those little pieces like that. Or even, I haven't done it recently, but like initially I would watch like Our Favorite Movie Together, which Our Favorite Movie Together was an old classic. It was, oh my gosh, I just forgot the name of it. It's a black and white movie. It started off black and white, but then it turned into color during the movie. But it was, I have to look it up because if I don't say what it is, it's going to really like irritate me.
It went from black and white to color in the middle of the movie?
Mm-hmm. And it had Mahalia Jackson was in it at the end.
Oh no, I don't know that one. I was about to say.
I'm trying to see if I can find like what movies I had to see what movies she was in.
I'm thinking Celebration of Life or something like that. I don't know why I'm thinking that.
It's close. Imitation of Life. That's okay, it. Yeah. Yep. That was our favorite movie that we would always watch. And so that was the one that I would like sit back and kind of watch a little bit of. And there's this one time where we're at my parents' house and like my dad would know when we're about to watch the movie. So he'd just like leave. Or he'll come back early and like we'd have like a box of tissues in between us and we're both sitting there like crying, like our eyes on, we're both like picking tissue. And he's like, he'd be like, y'all watching that damn movie again? Or it's like, yep. Like just sitting there doing that. But I want to have my kids, I want to have that moment with my kids to have them actually watch that movie as well too. Just so they can kind of see the aspects of it, because I feel like now it's very important just because like the whole storyline.
Is that the one with the young lady who grew up passing and denied her mother?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was sad.
That was an amazing movie.
Yeah, it was.
To be able to watch that. And then having Mahalia Jackson singing it. That's what really like was the icing on it for there. That one was like, all right, if you don't cry by now, you about to cry. Like you about to let it out.
That's funny because the one thing that my mother loved NBA basketball, and she bought the league pass, like, and we watching like all the games, like literally. And I would go over to the house, and it would be an event to watch the East Coast games would end at like 8 or 9, and the West Coast game would start at 9 and we'd be asleep by midnight because the game be over. But she liked watching basketball. Her and my stepdad would watch it. And when I was over there last night, the Bucks were playing and didn't have a game on. I think he's not even interested in it anymore. Because I remember asking him, "Are you watching any basketball?" I was like, "No, I haven't watched any basketball." So it's kind of like he gave up on it, which is kind of like my thing is like, I'm all for it because she watched all. I mean, she loved the Lakers, but then she loved the Bulls. So it was almost like they were bandwagon followers. But
that's funny. But no, it's like the things that you do like in memory of them. I feel like it's a huge piece for healing, as well. Whether it's even, like for my mom too, is also, like I said, mentioned the plant person. Also, she's a big flower person. So I often like weekly, I actually get her favorite flowers and I have them at the house. And that's just something that I've been doing, for the longest. And even though my dad would always be like, flowers gonna die, all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm like, but she loved flowers. So I'm like, yeah, I'm like, you say that. I said, but every time that she wanted something, you definitely were buying them damn flowers for her over there. Yeah. So it's like, it's just being able to look at those pieces and see. And I think that that's like another thing that has really, helped me. But then also looking back at, like I mentioned, like kind of healing myself, looking at like some of her different traumas and stuff that she had too. And being able to recognize how those kind of like carried over into me and being able to go through and kind of like heal those, I feel also is like I don't know if I want to say in a twisted way, but kind of like is like, bringing me closer to her, once again, because it's now looking at, I have the opportunity to heal this. Like you didn't really have the opportunity because you weren't ready to go ahead and do that, which is okay. But now it's like, it's my time to go ahead and do that too.
So, this is not part of the agenda,
but I think you got something to say.
But it's a nice transition to like kind of almost closure of the conversation. We talked about grieving. We talked about healing. I'm going to add another component that's not on your title.
That's okay.
Growing.
Ooh.
So are
we talking about wider or taller? No, because I feel like I have,
Well, that has a lot to do with the pleasure eating.
Yes, this is true.
But as far as, I guess, legacy, you have children. I have children. My youngest probably doesn't remember my two youngest probably don't remember my mother as much as the oldest does because she was completely spoiled by them. But
mine as well. So
types of things we do for ourselves, not in memory of our parents, but more so things that we are doing so that our children are kind of prepared for our transition. And it's going to be hard regardless, but are there things that you're doing that's different than what your parents did for you, that it's not going to be so tough on them? It's going to be tough, but just laying out opportunities for them to actually plan for you to be gone.
I have not, I'll be honest. I haven't had that conversation. Like, I've had a little bit with my son. He's my Facebook legacy person. So I told him, I said, dude, just log. I said, all I ask for you to do is when that time comes, number one, I need you to wheel me in late because I'm always late. So I said, you got to wheel me. I said, funeral starts at 2, wheel me in at like 2:15, 2:30. That way we know that
you was on time today. I was late.
I was, but normally I'm late. So I said, make sure that you roll me out late. I said, that's the first part. I said, also to go onto my Facebook page and say, tell everyone, thank you for coming.
God bless you. Good night.
God bless you. Good night. And do that as well, too, because I said, those will be the two things. But I said, other than that, as far as for like the planning process and everything, I haven't. What I can say, though, is that I know it would be very difficult on them just because we are very close. And I've made it that way purposely because I know that I didn't get close to my mother until I was an adult. And I don't want my kids to go through that. I'd rather be, close with them the whole 9 yards versus just like waiting until certain time frames, for it.
Yes.
But it is definitely something that I have thought a little bit about. But also on the flip side of that is that I don't feel like I'm 42. It's like, I really don't feel my age at all. Like, I feel like I just looked up one day and was like, shit, I was just 20 like 5 minutes ago. Like, how the hell did we get here? And then looking at my son, like with him being 23, you're going to be, 24 this year, even looking at his life and seeing things. And like, I'm seeing my friends are like grandparents and stuff and everything. And I'm like, dude, I'm not even ready for that. Like, I still got kind of still want to have some more kids myself. Like, I'm like, I'm just like looking at things, a little bit differently. And I don't know if it's me being unrealistic or just like being like, I'm just like not there yet mentally to be like to shut down or whatever, so to speak. Cause I feel like sometimes it can turn into a, like, okay, well, let me start planning this because, it's time to head on out, like one of those kind of things, which is like, I don't want it to be that way either. But I know the reality of it is that we all are going to transition.
Yeah. I mentioned who would be the beneficiary to my eldest, and she was like, I don't want to talk about that. And I'm like, hey, this is definitely after my friend passed, and he had a lot of residual mess left over that was not reconciled prior to him dying. But I did lay out, and this is in writing, I'm going to give it to him eventually, but because I know how my life insurance works, or I know how other people's life insurance works. Like, you don't get life insurance after you die. It just doesn't just come in a check. All of a sudden you have to pay upfront costs. So,
with yours. Yeah.
I don't know. I have to double check what mine is, but a couple of people that I've ran into, people had to actually kind of either wait for the check to come, or they just went up and just paid for things and then reimbursed. So I did tell in the writing, I did write out a plan of action of where they can get the money from, because they have life insurance policies as well. And they can actually borrow against it and then pay themselves back once they once they get the insurance money. So, I mean, I did give them that kind of plan because
that's good.
They're not broke. I mean, we set you up really nice to, get whatever money that you're going to get. But if you don't have any in your savings or whatever to kind of take care of it, I don't want you to be bearing the burden of waiting for life insurance to come in, if that's the case, because I don't, I need to actually find all those papers and kind of all the directions. I don't even know what that is. I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, and get everything together. Because, with me, I was the one that was doing all that stuff. And so, I do have, a life insurance policy and everything like that. My parents actually got me one. And they just have carried it on for me. So, I have it. My son is I have it divided out amongst the three of them. And so, of course, 34, 33, 30. That's that way. So my son gets the most, he gets that extra percentage. Ta-da.
Yeah, same
being oldest. But other than that, it's pretty much divided out. But we even did too, where because my dad's beneficiary, of course, but then my son is the beneficiary after that, and it stops. So he don't know this, so don't try to off me. But he would be the beneficiary, that way. So yeah, we got that part, set up. As far as actual, plans, hey, I need to have a pearl white casket, all that kind of stuff like that. No, I ain't do all that. Do all that type of stuff, Yeah,
all I did was say I want a party.
Yeah,
I want a party.
And I definitely say the same thing too. That I definitely has to be party and bullshit. Has to definitely be a whole biggie.
Yep, I told them who to talk to. I'm like, hey, talk to these people. They know who to get. They know what the playlist is going to be. If they don't do it right, I'm haunting them.
Right. Oh,
I'm coming back.
Yeah, and I've also told my children that too. I said, play with me if you want to.
Right.
When all that stuff starts breaking in your house, don't be surprised.
Right.
Them glasses gonna go cling cling.
Have somebody singing Swing Low at my damn upside of the mountain.
I don't want to hear no damn Amazing Grace.
Right. I don't want to hear it now. No, I love God, but I am not going to have that stuff at my.
Now I did have because she did want one. I forgot what song it was, but we did have one of those.
Nope.
Because I told her, I was like, okay, you want one, you get exactly that, and we ain't even playing we ain't playing all 15 verses. You're gonna get the first verse that we know of, and we're done with it from there. We're not gonna keep on doing this.
So, no, I had a choir sing at my mom's. I was at the time I was a principal of a high school, and we had a high school choir that was amazing. And we brought them in. They sang an a cappella version of a song that was very upbeat and it was purposely done. And then a cousin came up there. You know how they acknowledgements. She came up there and sang some sad song. I was like, this is not what we want.
We'll go up there and take the mic from her this ain't it.
Right.
Yeah, no, I had a lot of my family that actually were surprised that because I like I said, I planned everything. So then, except for my mom's friend did the food and all that stuff, the repast and everything. But I had everything set up for who did the readings and stuff. And so I did some of the readings. And they were looking at me how in the hell are you doing these readings? I'm like, who else is going to do it? I'm only child. Once again, it's kind of so that's the one good thing about having 3 children that I'm hoping that they can go ahead and
divvy that up.
Yeah. Argue amongst yourselves. So give you a topic, me, and try to figure out, what they're going to go ahead and do. But who knows?
We'll see how it goes.
Right. I mean, I'll just be watching.
So any closing spiritual alchemist words as we wrap this up?
Well, I would say number one, that healing and grieving is not a linear process. Once again, it happens in so many different ways that you will not honestly know until it happens. It's I hate to say it, but until certain things happen, you don't know how you are going to react, how you're going to process any of those things. Because I know a lot of times they'll say oh, well, I wouldn't do that, or I wouldn't do this. I'm you don't know. You don't know until it happens. So it's really something that you can't really necessarily prepare yourself for. The only thing I can say though is that with all the different types of grief that we were talking about, I mean, we talk about the physical, but then also too, when it comes to relationships, jobs, all those different things like that, it's still a process that you go through. And it's definitely okay to ask for help. It doesn't make you look like you are a weak person or anything like that, because a strong person is able to actually sit down and have the emotional intelligence to recognize that they need this assistance, that they need the help, and that there are people out there that can help them as well too. And there's different resources. There's resources that are free. that can assist you as well too. And even if you're at the point where, mentally you think that you might actually do something to yourself, there are resources for that as well too. So I don't want you to ever, feel like you're alone, because honestly, you are not. So just make sure that, reach out to whomever, you can. I believe it's 988 is the suicide number as well too, which they just recently updated to make it, easier for you to be able to go ahead and get the assistance that you need, because that is 988. Okay. Yeah. So I was right. So then, that way you can have, the tools available to assist you. And they have lots of people that are, available. I know you can text it and everything as well too. So just definitely know that you are loved. And as I always say, like, if you haven't heard someone has not told you yet today that they love you, I love you. So that is that's my end, my end all to be all. Once again, Sarita Valmont, Spiritual Alchemist Podcast. Also, feel free to listen to me when you can on WJMR 98.3. That's what she said. That would be I.
I was going to actually say, well, where can we find you? But you already there. So.
I'm on top of it.
And you're going to be at the gathering tomorrow.
I'm going to be at the gathering tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
All right.
Slanging candles and body butters and talking about the alleviation agenda.
I do have some mango body butter. Yes. And it is outstanding. So
you can use it everywhere. You can even use it in your hair.
Yes. I have to hide it from my dog because he eats it. She eats it. But thank you for making me come from behind the board and being in the camera.
Yeah, you got to come from behind the piano sometime.
Hey, only Auntie can do this. Only Auntie can do this. Well, thank you all for joining us. And I guess we'll see you in a couple weeks?
Yeah. Every other week.
All right. What's going on with my clapping here?
No, I'm like, you press the button.
I pressed the button.